So here you are researching buying a franchise. Now, by law, the franchisor that you're working with has to send you an FDD or franchise disclosure document before you can invest. Now, the FDD has a huge amount of very helpful information that's going to help you make a really informed decision. Now, there is a disclosure waiting period between when you actually sign for the FDD and when you can make an investment. That's a federally mandated 14 days. So if the franchisor accepts any money from you, even in the form of a deposit, before this 14 days has transpired, they are potentially breaking the law. Now, there is also a 7-day waiting period for the agreements that eventually you're going to sign if you're happy with all the information in the FDD. These agreements waiting period can run concurrently with the FDD. So oftentimes you're just going to wait a total of 14 days. Now, if you have time constraints, keep that consideration in mind and sign sooner rather than later. Now, after the franchisor sends you these documents, you're thinking to yourself, great, I'm going to get all this information. Most people are of that mindset. Now, you receive the documents and you look at it and you go, my goodness, this is 400 pages long. What most people do is they'll set it aside and say, I'll look at it tomorrow. Or some people just say, you know what, I'm going to rely on what the franchisor says and take that as gospel truth. Very, very bad situation. It's actually not that difficult to read the FDD. We're going to cover it today. This isn't going to be an exhaustive look at how an FDD works, but just a crash course on how you can work your way through the FDD, and it's very important to do so. Now, we always recommend you, of course, engage with a experienced franchise lawyer. And why I'm stressing the word franchise lawyer is average lawyers don't really understand franchise documents. And oftentimes when they look at them, they see this very, in their mind, restrictive document. And they'll often give you a jaded view. But franchising in general, that's how it works. It is extremely restrictive. That's the nature of franchising. And a franchise lawyer, a qualified one, is going to see that. They'll have seen many of these documents and they'll understand they all look like that. You know, McDonald's, right down to how many pickles go on there, it's all regulated. That's just the nature of franchising, and it's nothing to worry about. Now, what we're suggesting is if you understand the FDD, you can determine whether at that point it's even worth it to hire a lawyer. You may hire a lawyer and then, have wasted your money. There's a ton of stuff in there that you don't like. So this is just going to be an overview to potentially root out some things that may not be desirable in your situation. And if it does look okay, then go over to a lawyer. So again, I'm not going to go into any great detail. We're just going to go over the 23 items that are in the FDD and give you a better handle on how to understand this document and don't find it so daunting. Now, the first page of the FDD is going to be a general overview of the franchise and investment amounts. Now, if you've been working with the franchise, you already know what your total investment amounts are, most likely. Now, the table of contents, okay, that's going to outline 23 items. Now, the beauty of the FDD, the franchise disclosure document, is that every single one is standardized. Every single one is exactly the same. So the items, 23 in number, always standardized. We'll go over every single one right now so you know what they are. Item 1. The franchisor and any parents, predecessors, and affiliates. And this will be a few paragraphs regarding the business, the date of incorporation. Is the business owned or controlled by other entities? Where is its principal place of business? Formal operating names, and other details. They'll also list details about the franchise, applicable regulations, and potential competition. Now, why this might be very important is they have to tell you who the competition is. You're going to want to read that and see who you're going to be up against. And that can actually be some other franchisors in the same territory if you don't have an exclusive region. Don't let the legal wording in the FDD scare you off. It's meant to be very legal sounding, and it's going to give you the real deal. And the reality lies somewhere between what the salesperson told you and how the FDD is being laid out. So don't worry about that too much. So item 1, we're going to learn about the franchise history and some details of the competition that exists out there in the marketplace. Now, item 2 is business experience. And this is going to outline all of the people, upper management, who are involved in the franchise. And one small tip I will tell you, Google the names of the people who you find in item 2 of the FDD. A lot of stuff will come up. Have they come from previously failed franchises? Have they been involved in previous lawsuits? Check out their LinkedIn profiles as well. Management of a franchise system is equally important oftentimes as the franchise itself. So do some Googling, do some research, and find out all about those folks who are listed in the FDD. And it's not optional. They have to list this stuff. Item 3 is litigation. Have they been sued, or have they sued any franchisees? Again, they have to list all of this. And franchising in general is a very litigious type of industry. So don't be overly worried if you see a couple of lawsuits, particularly in larger type franchises. Now, if you see misrepresentation, breach of contract, fraud, and many, many instances of it, you may want to look elsewhere, or at minimum, up your due diligence. Item 4 is bankruptcy. Has the franchise or any of its principals declared bankruptcy in the past? Again, not a complete deal breaker, but certainly a red flag you're going to want to look at. Item 5 is initial fees. Now, you probably know this already. It's just a breakdown of what your initial fees, your initial investment is going to be. But that's not all your costs, which brings us over to item 6, which is all the fees. This one is very important. This is where all the applicable fees beyond initial fees are going to be listed. And your typical fees are things like royalty payments, marketing, advertising, promotional fees. And don't forget, your advertising is most often going to be comprised of local and national advertising. There could be software fees, technology fees. Buried within those fees also, as you look a little bit lower down, you're going to see things like transfer fees. How much is it going to cost you if you would like to transfer or sell your franchise? Sometimes that's a big number. How much is your renewal fee if you choose to renew your term, and terms are oftentimes 5 to 20 years? How much is it going to cost you to renew? So these are very important numbers that you need to look at. Item 6 is also going to outline late fee charges and if there are any fines for non-compliance. Now, this is very important, as in some FDDs, you can actually be fined for infractions as small as putting the wrong ingredient on a food. You can also be fined thousands of dollars for losing your operations manual, okay? So make sure you understand and read these things, because they can cause oftentimes a lot of bad blood. If an FDD is overly restrictive and it just is not to your liking, you no longer have to continue with that. Now, item 7 is your estimated initial investment. There's always going to be a range. Now, this is also a very important item that you'll want to look at, and this provides a high and a low range of what your total investment will be, including the franchise fee, training, signage, leasehold improvements, furniture, initial inventory, and usually your working capital will also be included in there, anywhere from 3 to 6 months. They should list a realistic amount. Now, you'll have to estimate how much it's going to be in your area. If you live in a smaller city, obviously your costs are going to be lower. If you live in a huge city that's very expensive to live in, your costs are going to be towards the higher end of the scale. Now, at the bottom of the box, you're going to see a total range for your estimated costs. Item 7 is going to also have several paragraphs outlining how these funds are allocated, as well as who the funds are payable to. It's not always directly to the franchisor. Item 8 is restrictions on sources of products and services. Now, this is another very important item, particularly so if you are selling food or buying products directly from the franchisor. Do you need to buy their cleaning products, for example? Are you required to buy their hamburger meat directly from them, or do you have flexibility to buy it on an open market? Do you need to use their point of sale system? Now, item 8 of the franchise disclosure document is also going to indicate, and they have to do this by law, if they are making a profit selling you these items and how much profit is being made from them selling to the franchisees. Now, the point here is that if you are forced to purchase goods and supplies at unrealistically elevated costs, you may not be able to be competitive in your given market, especially in industries that have razor-thin margins to begin with, such as food and some other similar type of franchises. Always make sure that you're not being forced into buying goods from the franchisor at unrealistic prices. It's going to make it very difficult for you to have business. Item 9 is franchisees' obligations. Again, very important. At first glance, this appears to be a very short box, a very small section. However, if you look closely, you'll see that there are multiple references to sections in the actual franchise agreement that's far down below that covers these obligations in greater detail. Now, this item can be a little bit time consuming because you're having to go from this box down to the agreement and back and forth, but it's worth knowing exactly what you are expected to do during the life of this contract. So take the time, go through it, check the references between the agreement and the FDD. And these obligations cover range from policies, procedures, customer service requirements, owner's actual participation, renewal, advertising, and a whole lot more. And make sure you are comfortable with all of these obligations before you sign. This is what you're going to have to do at the risk of being sued not doing it. So make sure it's okay with you. Item 10, very easy. Financing. Is there any available directly from the franchisor or from a third party? Item 11 is franchisor's assistance, advertising, computer systems, and training. So finally, after reading about everything the franchisor is taking from you and expects you to do, here is the section that's going to tell you the activities that they are going to do. This is what's in it for you. So these include things like site selection, helping you find a location, providing floor plans, lists of suppliers and vendors, training and operations manuals, advertising, collateral, etc. Now, this is a fairly important item. And also make note of things like social media. What is their control over social media? Do they allow you to do your own social media? A lot of people are very good at it, and they want that to be part of the autonomy of their business. So if they disallow that, they may not be a franchise that you want to look at. Also, costs of computers and point of sale systems are going to be listed in this item. Item 12 is territory. Very easy to read and also very important. Do you receive an exclusive territory? And if so, what exactly is it? How is it defined? We always suggest that our clients look at, just to compare, at least 3 or 4 franchises to make sure you're getting the lowest royalties, the biggest territory, and the best support. Now, not all franchises have protected territory, and depending on the industry, that can actually not be such a bad thing. It can make sense in some situations. Also, you'll see what are your options for territory expansion, if applicable. Item 13, again, very simple. These are the trademarks that the company owns. If this is a very new company, the trademark may not actually be formally registered, which could potentially, very unlikely, but could potentially cause issues down the line. So you'll want to make a note of that. Item number 14 is patents, copyrights, and proprietary information. Now, that's legal speak outlining the extent of the control over their proprietary information and also your limits of use. Item 15, also important, obligation to participate in the actual operations of the franchise business. Now, this is very important if you are looking for a passive type of franchise, a business where you don't have to have actual involvement in the day-to-day. Now, some franchises require and will mandate in the FDD actual owner participation and involvement in the day-to-day operations. Others allow you to install a designated manager to run your shop. So make sure that this item is in alignment with your business goals, and make sure that this will make sense for the way you want to run a business. Item 16 is restrictions on what the franchisee may sell. Again, this is quite important. It ties back quite closely to item 8. Again, you want to be sure that these restrictions are for mutual benefit, not actually gouging you by forcing you to buy overpriced single source goods. McDonald's, obviously it makes sense to have standardized food sources to lower costs and to maintain consistency. Many cleaning franchises manufacture their own products and have proprietary cleaning materials. This is also a good thing. Now, other unscrupulous franchises, however, may just use this as a profit center, selling products at hugely inflated margins to contractually obligated franchisees. Always make sure that existing franchisees are happy with this relationship. They don't feel that they're being gouged, and you can easily call all of the franchisees. Those are listed in the FDD as well, any franchisees that have recently left the system and existing franchisees. Item 17, renewal, termination, transfer, and dispute resolution. How long is the term? Most franchise agreements will fall somewhere between 5 years and 20 years. How much does it cost to renew? What is cause for termination or non-renewal? That's very important. What rights are available to you legally in the event that you have breached the contract? What happens in the case of a breach of contract? What happens in the case of death or disability? Can they come in and take over your store? Also very important are the non-compete provisions. Can you operate other businesses during the term? Now, if your plan is to keep an existing business or career, is that allowed in the contract? This is very important for you to know. Item 18, public figures. Does the franchisor use any public figures to promote their franchise? Very easy. Most of them do not. Now, item 19 is the financial performance representation. And this is the item that everyone wants to know first when they call us. Now, how much money can I make with this franchise? Now, not every single franchise out there lists their financial performance, and they're not legally obliged to do so. And if they do list some figures in the item 19, not all of them do so in a standardized fashion. They have the legal autonomy to do it in any way they wish. So make sure you understand that the figures shown, if they are an average of all the centers, top quartile to lower quartile, or if it is a blend of some other types of numbers. For example, if they show the top 10 average of yogurt shops in Florida, that doesn't really give you a whole lot of useful information if you are opening a frozen yogurt shop in Alaska. So make sure that this financial representation makes sense for you. Now, another way to find out a good average outside of the item 19, whether it's listed or whether it is not, is to call existing franchisees. And again, those are all going to be listed in the FDD. Give them a call. And I'll tell you something, if they are not happy with their current financial situation, they are going to let you know. Item 20 is a list of outlets and franchise information. This is an awesome item. It's very important. What they're going to do is show you for the past 3 years how many franchises were opened, transferred, and closed. Now, if you see huge negative numbers in the closed column, that's not a good sign. Something you all also want to watch for, which is more difficult to see, is something called franchise churning. So instead of letting unprofitable stores close, which shows up in the closed columns, the franchisor just sells that store to another unsuspecting new owner. So that's not going to show up as a net change in the store opens or closes. Where it will show up, however, and where you can see it, is down in the transfers section. Now, you're also going to see things like terminations. If there's a lot of terminations, that's going to be a red flag for you. Non-renewals, again, that's going to be a red flag. All of this is very important data, so take a quick look at it and see what it says. Item 21 is financial statements, and these are the financial statements for the company, not as we saw for individual franchisees in item 19. So if the company's financials in this circumstance look frail, you have to ask yourself, how is that going to bear out for you as a franchisee? Are they in a position to help you, to support you, and what does their longevity look like? Item 22, contracts. This is an overview of all the contracts that are included, including the franchise agreement that you're eventually going to be asked to sign. And there's others in there, including a general release form, state-specific agreements, development agreements might be in there, and a few others. Those are all going to be listed there, and that's what you're going to be expected to sign. And finally, item 23 is the receipts. That's just the form that you have to sign and send back to them to begin that 14-day waiting period before you can invest money. So you just sign that and see. Again, you're going to have that 14 days and likely the 7-day concurrently running for the agreement. So if you have time constraints, if you want to open the franchise sooner rather than later and you're happy with the FDD, then make a point of that to sign it and get it out there. You're going to have a 14 wait. Now, next up, right below, is the actual franchise agreement itself. If you're happy with the FDD, now is the time that you're going to want to engage with a legal expert. Get your qualified franchise attorney to take a look at it. As always, we recommend that you take a look at several franchises just to compare the royalties, the territory sizes, and other good things, and make sure that you are making the absolute optimal choice. Don't just look at one franchise. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. If you need help in that regard, give us a call. Our consultations are always free. We can help you search and research franchises in your territory. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and visit us at franchise.city. Yes, that's .city, not .com, to learn more about our services. Thanks for watching.